Good evening. One cannot even imagine what the family members and the loved ones, friends and colleagues of a brave jet fighter pilot must be going through tonight. But we can only stand by them in this tough hour and hope that our government is successful in bringing back this Indian soldiers soon. We can hope that Pakistan, the nation that encourages terror and doesn't believe in any humanitarian laws or international conventions, changes its stand under this new government and under Imran Khan. We hope that they release our soldiers safe and sound after initially failing to protect him from a mob and then leaking videos about him. But what can India really do? That's the conversation tonight. How do we get our man back to our country? How do we get this brave fighter pilot back to his home? What are our options diplomatically and legally? Let's discuss that. Let's say good evening to our panelists this evening. Kamar Aga, defense expert, joins us. Prabhu Dayal, former diplomat. Air Marshal P.K. Barbora, he was the former Vice Chief of Air Staff. Lieutenant General Gurmeet Singh continues to be with us, and Air Marshal Sunil Nanotkar will be with us shortly. I also have Dr. V.B. Soni, also a former diplomat. And let me begin by asking Dr. Soni this. What are our options, Dr. V.B. Soni? One thing is very clear, that by leaking these videos, by releasing that one other video on its official Twitter handle, Pakistan seems to have violated the Geneva Convention at multiple levels. What do we do now?
Well, first of all, what they have done is something very cannot be defended by anybody, any civil society. What has to be done is to put pressure on them at various international level through various agencies, UN agencies, and in fact, what is important is, for the time being, for a start, is the safety of our brave heart who is there. So all effort must be there to make sure that no permanent harm comes to him, and that can be done by exerting pressure at various levels.
Right. In fact, Mr. Prabhudayal, bringing you in also on the same aspect, what are our options right now when we say that, we have to put diplomatically take it up, pressurize it via UN, Court Geneva Convention? What is it that India should right away start working at, or perhaps is already doing, but we wouldn't probably know about the methods that are used?
Well, we can take up the matter directly with Pakistan and also through the United Nations. But really speaking, it is entirely up to Pakistan. And going by past experience, Pakistan has not been very nice with our prisoners of war. Its track record is pretty abysmal. Now, the situation, therefore, changed quite a lot after Pakistan has got hold of our fighter pilot. It has the pilot in its custody. Till last evening, we really had the upper hand in the entire situation. We had given one mighty blow to the terror camp, which was across the line of control. But today, when our fighter pilot was taken into their custody, his plane was downed, and then he found himself to be inside Pakistani-occupied Kashmir, the dynamics has changed. Now, a lot of people are saying that it was a well laid out Pakistani trap, that they sent in their fighter aircraft knowing full well that we would try to chase and go in hot pursuit. They dropped some payload, and of course we chased the Pakistani aircraft. They shot one MiG down, and our pilot fell in their side of the line of control. So a lot of people are saying this was a well laid out Pakistani trap, and we fell for it. Now, with our fighter pilot in their custody, there is going to be an emotive issue, because there are these pictures of the pilot who had been beaten up, and of course later the Pakistanis are going to show pictures that they are treating him well. They are going to violate the Vienna Convention. They are not supposed to show that they are ill-treating the pilot. But the fact of the matter is that they are not known to be nice. And We should have avoided this situation. We should have thought through things very carefully. Unfortunately, as things have unfolded, we, I think, fell into a trap. This is what a lot of people feel whom I have spoken to.
Right. But now the fact of the matter is that early in the morning, Pakistani handles, official, unofficial, even their own media was obviously parroting the version that was given to them, and they ran a lot of visuals, they ran a lot of pictures which were very, very disturbing. In the afternoon, our government came out and did confirm that when Pakistani jets tried to invade our airspace and target our military installations, our Air Force was ready to hit back, and we did push them back. And in that operation, we lost that one MiG Bison, and the pilot was missing in action. That is what officially was told to us by our government in the afternoon. It's in the evening when the Pakistani military and their spokesperson released a video of our jet pilot that the government then sent a tough message and released that statement warning Pakistan, because this is against the Geneva Convention. And that really has to be highlighted again and again. Air Marshal Barbora, thank you for joining us. The fact that Pakistan would make a video of an injured soldier and then release it, can that be now used against them to create more international support internationally?
Right. Firstly, let me say a few words. I don't think this conflict is a war conflict. It's not war as yet. We went against terrorists. They were coming into our territory with their aircraft today, and we intercepted them. I think there was close to a dozen aircraft from, each side, total compromising of about a dozen aircraft, 6+ from their side, maybe 6+ from our side. Now, this is not war. And Geneva Convention, if I am not mistaken, deals in a war scenario. All that. Yeah, in respect of the pilot and the photographs, etc., and the video, is very sad. But Pakistan has been known to do that. What are we so surprised about it? You know what happened in Kargil. You know what happened down the line along the LOCs. They have mutilated our soldiers, people, and displayed them. So this was one of those tactics to bring up the morale of their own country, own defense forces, and bring down our morale at the same time. I'm sorry, they do not impact our morale. It's an immune affair. But the next thing is, you all are not mentioning it, although it's my information from some source or the other. In my understanding, when this melee took place between their aircraft and our aircraft, their aircraft were detected by various sources when they were heading towards our side, and then our aircraft were also up in the air quickly to be able to take them on.
Correct.
And a melee took place. In the melee, yes, one of our aircraft got shot down, but in my understanding, we shot down an F-16.
Yes.
And you all are not mentioning it in the social media at all.
Well,
you must be looking for, yes, a confirmed source.
So, Air Marshal Barbora, let me clarify that.
The pilots ejecting across their border.
Correct. Air Marshal Barbora, let me clarify that. Of course, there is a lot of noise that happens on Twitter. Here on our channel on Mirror Now, we've only been putting out confirmed information that the government is confirming for us. And yes, you are right, because even in the government briefing in the afternoon, this is what the MEA spokesperson said. This pilot and this MiG specifically was the one that engaged and shot down the Pakistani jet, reportedly an F-65. But the Indian government has confirmed that that jet was shot down, and it did fall, though, on their side of the territory, on their side of the LOC. So you're absolutely right there. That part has been confirmed. Now, of course, we don't know at what point how did he land up on the other side? If he got shot down, how did our aircraft, fall on the other side of the LOC? Yes, go ahead, please. I interrupted you just to clarify that one point.
Okay. Now, I will explain that. I will explain that. First and foremost, there is no line drawn on the ground to show that this is LOC. It's all forest area, hill area. How do you say that in that melee, do you know when almost 12 aircraft are milling around in the sky, you think they are knowing where exactly inch-wise I am?
Yes.
The radius of turns of these aircraft at those high speeds are such large radiuses, they go to either side. It's happened at the border. And even if the pilot ejects, the aircraft can land that side because of the speed of the aircraft, which direction it was facing. These are things which you all maybe do not understand, but we understand. At a supersonic speed, our radius of action, or radius of turn, is as much as 70 kilometers. And it's very strange that you have just made a point, Faye, that how did it go that side? Arey, have a heart. You wanted them to come into our territory
No, I
and
absolutely.
drop the load? Or you wanted us to stop them dropping the load in whatever installation? So please understand, you had this information, you should have said it in your introduction, that we shot down one of their F-16s. And the ground, our Indian Army ground people saw the pilot's parachute coming down on their side.
Well, Air Marshal Barbara, I completely agree with you. And thank you for explaining that. The point of having you here and asking you that question was for you to, explain it to our viewers, for those who are asking this question or maybe wondering how this would have really panned out. What is it in a scenario of action? Because obviously none of us understand, and you are the one who could, make us understand that. Now let me take that point across to Air Marshal Sunil Nanodkar and ask him this question. Sir, tonight we wanted to focus on how do we get our man back? How do we get our pilot back? He's obviously been trained well for any such eventualities, and he is responding the way he's been trained to. But what is our job as a country, as a government today? What do we do?
Yeah, first of all, I will, with all respect to Air Marshal Barbara, who's been my senior and who's trained me, and the legacy passes on to the boy who's today done his job so well for our country, that what he has explained, that this whole thing has gone into hot pursuit. You must understand that we had spoiled the bid of Pakistan to drop their weapon on the target that they had planned. So therefore he has gone behind them to chase them off, and that is how he has landed where he has landed. And the best thing is that Pakistan has declared that we have captured one of the Indian pilots on our soil, and send us some confirmatory reports through while it has come through social media, and officially the same has been played by them on the screen. So one thing is for sure, that this declaration of capture of pilot will now the onus is on Pakistan as per the convention to hand over this pilot safe and sound back to India. And I find no reason Pakistan not to do that. And but however, the track record of Pakistan as per the Kargil experience is 50-50. They killed one of the pilots which they had captured, and they have handed over one pilot back after some kind of torture to him to extract as much information as possible from this pilot. And today Nachiketa is with us, flying safe and sound in India. So we have a 50-50 record of Pakistan doing whatever they have done in the past, but we hope this time, since they have at a first instant declared that we have this pilot with us, they will follow all international norms and hand over this pilot as early as possible. And I think all efforts are made to get him back within a day or two, and I hope it happens. And from that video that we are seeing on the social media that are coming around from Pakistan, one is that the morale of this boy is excellent. He is doing his best to follow the convention, international convention, and I think we should see him back safe and sound very shortly.
Let me go across to Mr. Kamar Aga. Mr. Kamar Aga, while one of our panelists said that this is not a, we are not in a state of war, and so the Geneva Convention may not apply. Do you agree with that? Because, and for our viewers to understand that Geneva Convention is actually, it forms the basis of the modern international humanitarian law. And it sets the rules and the standards for how soldiers and civilians should be treated during the war. And there are about 196 countries who have signed this. Pakistan is also one of them, though like Air Marshal was saying, Pakistan barely ever follows these kind of conventions. But I just want to read out Article 2, which is the application of the convention, and it says, in addition to the provisions which shall be implemented in peacetime, the present convention shall apply to all cases of declared war or of any other armed conflict which may arise between two or more of the high contracting parties, even if the state of war is not recognized by one of them. Could this then be valid? Because at the end of the day, armed conflict did take place this morning, even if it was short and with limited jets. So what's your own view, Mr. Aga?
No, you're absolutely right. There are many conventions, there are many treaties or obligations. The problem is with Pakistan, it doesn't follow any international law or any treaty or obligation or treaty conventions. We have been seeing, is one country which violates. We have several agreements with Pakistan, or like Shimla Accord, we have Lahore Declaration, ceasefire agreement, but every day, you see Pakistan is violating these agreements one after the others, So it doesn't care. Pakistani military establishment is very feudal, very tribal, and they go ahead. The only way is to put pressure on Pakistan is to talk to Saudi Arabia, UAE, United States, China. These four countries, if we build up pressure, we talk to these people, because all four countries are with us at the moment. None of them want further escalation of conflict between India and Pakistan, So economic pressure can be built up on Pakistan. And these countries, they are we have very good ties with all the four, and all the four are with us at the moment. So we'll have to talk to this. Plus, we have to talk to European Union and other countries. We must immediately inform these organizations and countries that Pakistan is violating these agreements. And because the moment, situation has changed drastically. All the countries, the European nation or the others, they are facing also problem because of the rise of Islamic, particularly militancy, Islamic militancy, large number of migrants going to these countries. They want settlement. As far as the Arabs are concerned, Saudi Arabia and UAE are at war with Yemen for the last more than a couple of years or even more. And they have lost hundreds of billions of dollars, and oil prices are down at the moment. They don't have much money to spare or to bail out Pakistan.
Right.
So they also don't want any further confrontation.
Right.
Therefore, I believe, we should contact these countries immediately and build pressure on Pakistan. The other pressure, all sorts of other pressures,
Right.
should also be, the economic and other factors should also be taken into account.
Lieutenant General Gurmeet Singh, thank you for patiently waiting by. You've heard, everybody's views on this aspect that we are discussing tonight. Well, where do you stand on it?
In fact, I have respect for all the panelists, the viewpoint that they have. But I'm very definite about it, that a very strong warning has been given to Pakistan today. If you go through the diplomatic démarche, it has got a very stern warning. It has been told there that what Pakistan did today was act of aggression, and this gives us the basis of legitimacy and justification to take our response as we desired. It was also told to them that it was a vulgar display of the videos what they shown today. Today, the way ISPR handled the media was pathetic. least to say. Let me tell you one thing very clearly. I'm proud of this pilot. I'm proud of this wing commander. He is a second generation Air Force officer. His composure, his pride was fantastic. Let it be a warning for Pakistan. Actually, they should have learned the lesson on 26th itself. Now the resolve is different. Now we are taking the different mode of hard choices and option. Talking about shaping the environment respectfully through economic and other aspects and all. We don't have this time for niceness at this moment. Our professional is there in Pakistan at the moment. And dare they touch that pilot. He is a pride. There is no chance that they can even touch him at this moment. This should be very clear to the Pakistan. And let me tell you one thing. If you have read the sequence of actions from 14 February onward,
Yes.
if you have very clearly seen how 26th has gone and how 27th came up in front of us today, I am definite about it that Pakistan will have to hand him over in respectfully, which is due to a professional. And let me tell you, the professionalism which the Air Force has shown today, like you were asking question, how did it happen or fell on the other side? Ma'am, let me tell you one thing very clearly, that their intention was wrong. They had locked onto a military target. They dropped the bomb and then they said that we wanted to convey a message. This is not the method of conveying the message.
Yes.
They must understand our intent. Our aim was a war on terrorism. Our war was not on the military content of it.
Yes.
If Pakistan has not understood our intention, then there is something wrong. In fact, it is important for Pakistan to think deeply. They must analyze the diplomatic environment which has been shaped by the entire world and India, led by India campaign and all.
Okay.
Today, and actually there is a scope for intellectualism, but at this moment, my pride is there in Pakistan. Dare they touch him.
Right.
And let me tell you, irrespective of what the conventions are there, he will be back respectfully. They got no option but to send him. That's the way
But
I
how
look
do
at this
we?
thing.
But how do we make them do that? And I want to point this out. And yes, Mr. Dayal, I'm coming to you because Pakistan really doesn't understand, a lot of the language that the rest of the world does. They thought that they would send a message, or they had to make a grand statement with the airstrikes that they carried out this morning on our military installations. That was their attempt, which was foiled by us. But that is the kind of adventurism that our neighbor indulges in, Mr. Dayal. So will a diplomatic pressure really work? What did we do to get our soldier back in 1999 in the Kargil conflict, and to get our pilot, group captain Nachiket back? Can a similar, trick now be used for this establishment of Pakistan?
Well, General Gurpreet Singh is absolutely right that our fighter pilot who's in Pakistani custody is our pride, and the Pakistanis dare not touch him. At the same time, all our efforts now will definitely have to also focus on getting him back. We will be targeting the terrorists, we will be targeting the camps of the jaish-e-mohammed, but at the same time, we will also be focusing on getting our fighter pilot back. Now, this necessarily requires a dialogue. This necessarily requires that we engage in discussions with Pakistan. Now, our position has been that as long as terrorism is there, we are not going to negotiate with you. But with our fighter pilot in their custody, there has to be a slight change of nuance. We have to talk to them, because without talking to them, we cannot get him back. And I think that we cannot afford to let him remain in their custody longer than even the slightest day that is necessary. In other words, we have to get him back as soon as possible. There is going to be public outrage. Already there is. You know, his photographs splashed around with blood on his nose and all. The Pakistanis claim that he was beaten up by the villagers and all, but God knows, maybe it was all engineered by the Pakistan Armed Forces. The fact is that no Indian will feel easy with our fighter pilot in the custody of the Pakistan Armed Forces. And the earlier we get him back, the better. And this is going to be a very, very top level agenda item in our discussions with Pakistan. Now, I also feel that as far as the attitude of Pakistan in the long run is concerned, it is not going to change. Pakistan is going to use terrorism against us, the strategy of proxy war or covert war or whatever. International opinion is by and large in our favor. It was mentioned that China and Saudi Arabia and UAE are now slowly coming around to our position. But the fact of the matter is China is Pakistan's all-weather friend and uses Pakistan against us.
Right.
Saudi has recently given a huge package of aid to Pakistan. The UAE has done likewise. Pakistan has good friends also in some other countries in the Islamic world, Turkey for instance. We will have to mount pressure through all sources, of course, particularly to United Nations, permanent members of the Security Council. China poses a little problem for us there. But as I said earlier, the dynamics of the whole situation has changed.
Yes.
Because of the fact that our fighter pilot was brought down.
Yes.
Our pilot is a brave person. He is, as was mentioned, he's a second-generation fighter pilot. But no Indian will sleep peacefully with the thought that our brave soldier is in Pakistan's custody. And the earlier we get him back, the better for all of us.
Right. So there are two aspects.
Negotiations will have to factor this in.
So there are two aspects, and you know, and I want to come back to the point that Mr. Prabhudeval raised about we have to hold dialogues. That's the only way, or that is the most important or crucial way of getting our pilot back. But before I go across to Dr. Soni on that, I want to go back to Air Marshal Barbora and ask him this. Air Marshal Barbora, this is Pakistan we are talking about. This is the country that refused to take the dead bodies of its own soldier after the Kargil conflict because they wanted, they had taken this whole standoff. This is not, these are not our soldiers. This is not the Pakistani army. That is the extent that they go to. Can we really expect Pakistan to give in to diplomatic pressure of any kind, or is that the only way out? What is your own sense? And also from what Imran Khan said today, and he came out and he said that, I have always wanted peace. I am ready to talk to you for, on terror, whichever way you want to talk. But if you escalate things and if there is even one miscalculation, then things will not be under my control. Here is a Pakistani Prime Minister who is saying things will not be under my control. So how do you read this situation, knowing Pakistan's history?
Okay,
Well,
first and foremost,
I would like to say
let me just tell you about
Dr.
the
Soni, I'll
lies
come to
that
you just a
Pakistan
bit.
has started generating.
Brave officer
Dr. Soni, I'm sorry I'm interrupting you.
Now, the first thing is the photographs of the crash of an aircraft in, I think, 2016 in Jodhpur, which they have shown as the aircraft which has crashed, which was supposed to have crashed today. Now, that is lies of the first order. Then the dichotomy. They said first we got two pilots.
Yes.
Then they have said now, about a few hours back, they said one pilot.
Yes.
You know why they said two pilots? Because there were two ejections. One was by our pilot and one was the F-16 which was shot down, their pilot. And since two parachutes were seen, they immediately said we got two of Indian pilots. So another lie which they tried to cover up later on by saying, but they haven't admitted losing an F-16. Like I told you, we should be there, more proactive in telling the world that this is it. Now, you came to the fact of how do we get our pilot back? Pakistan will always, if they want, they'll find a via media within the conventions and agreements and international understandings if they want to keep a pilot back. But I'm so happy they made the video and sent it. It's viral. We can make it viral internationally. That is putting pressure on them. Yes, our talking with them is fine, but international pressure is more important. I am sure our pilot is in good hands now. He will come back when it is totally left after Pakistanis. Now, Imran Khan, right from the time the elections were held, everyone in India and in some other countries have said Imran Khan is a puppet of the Pakistani army. That's how he got selected to become the prime minister, whichever way it is. Now, he is under tremendous pressure. There is no doubt about it. And he knows very well that if this so-called scenario exists for another week or so, Pakistan is going to be bankrupt. Yeah, they'll go around with a begging bowl, maybe Saudi Arabia, UAE, China will give them something or the other, but Chinese have played it very smart now. They have endorsed a UN statement to say that this terror organization exists in Pakistan. Yeah, they have not named the boss.
Yes.
And what is this terror organization? They have already changed the name. So, we are back to square one and no one can do anything. But China this time at least endorsed it. Why? Because if they didn't, the world community will say China is indirectly supporting terrorism. But China has got its compulsions. $40 billion or so they've already invested in the road and rail infrastructure from all the way north through POK, Balochistan into Gwadar. Now they can't throw away $40 billion. It's not however rich they might be.
Correct.
They've got their own thing. They've got it. They're very, very, very worried. But the world will start pointing a finger at China if they carry on supporting Pakistan as far as this terrorism goes and don't take strong action. Please, Imran Khan, as far as I'm concerned, he's got no say whatsoever. The military rules Pakistan. All the retired chiefs, generals, etc., they all leave Pakistan after they retire. They go and settle abroad.
Correct.
That means they made so much money that they've got property abroad. Here, I am living in a flat in Gurgaon. They have minted money within their own country. They run the whole system there.
Yes.
They
And there
don't
is no
want to
denying
be
the fact.
troubled.
Absolutely.
And that is why the military will control the political side.
Absolutely. So then again, the question comes back to, and let me take that to Dr. Soni. Dr. Soni, I'm sorry I interrupted you then. But really with Pakistan army running the show as they do, does diplomatic pressure in any sense work right now?
We have to mount a pressure, diplomatic pressure, through our ambassadors in selected countries, particularly with those countries who have some influence on Pakistan. That's number one. We have to also launch a media blitz because it's important for the conscience of the world community to see what in the name of retaliation, that's what they're doing. They're flouting all international norms and regulations, which you also mentioned, even though it's not a declared war. But even in peace conditions, there are certain rules apply. We're living in civilized society, but is Pakistan civilized society? Will they listen? The issue is the more we put the pressure, informal pressure, even formal pressure is necessary to various international bodies at various forums, like UN, of course, has been mentioned at the in Geneva and elsewhere. It has to be done. It has to be mounted because first priority, I agree, it is the life of that particular brave soldier who I am not very certain that he will be treated as well as he should be, because there are no norms which are followed by the society. It's a feudal society. It's a society which has absolutely no norms. So immediately we have to launch a kind of a media blitz also take up the matter at diplomatic level, at the international level, wherever it is possible. Without that, other things can take care.
Can you help us understand what is it that worked, or how did we go about this when we got Group Captain Nachiketa back? And for our viewers to know, Group Captain Nachiketa was a 26-year-old fighter pilot who was assigned the task of hitting the Pakistani post during the Kargil war. He was captured by the Pakistani armed forces. He was a MiG-27 fighter bomber who was then returned 8 days later. And he himself later on, much later, narrated the stories of the mental and physical torture that he underwent in those 8 days. But we managed to get him back in 8 days. Dr. Soni, what is it that we managed to do at that point perhaps can be done again?
No, exactly what we did. I mean, at that time, I was in active service. I was ambassador to various countries. And my first job was to go all the countries, to all the decision makers in those countries. Through them, we explain what the situation is and how rules are being violated. It's only because individually all the diplomatic missions do it, and then collectively at the various world forum, and that is what worked. Because if we can take revenge at a later stage, but presently important thing is to get the person out. For this, as I mentioned, the two things are there. There is no other getting away from exerting pressure, both at the individual level, at regional level and global level, and through the media.
Okay, so under the Article 13 of the Geneva Convention, it says that likewise prisoners of war must be at all times protected, particularly against acts of violence or intimidation and against insults and public curiosity. And from my own reading, I think this is what the Pakistanis have violated. This is the article that can be used against them. And the Indian government's very, very strongly worded statement in the evening also mentioned that they have violated the Geneva Convention. But what should be the first step? Is de-escalation something that needs to be seriously looked at before we take this conversation forward? Kamar Aga, do you think at this point of time, de-escalation needs to be a focus if we want to bring back our man?
No, I don't think that we have to build up pressure, all sorts of pressure, including military pressure as well as. But one thing Ambassador Dayal has mentioned, we'll have to talk.
Yes.
And that is possible, the NSA is having discussions, number of times met with them. So we have been talking terror. Talk on terror is continuing with Pakistan. So negotiation is not a problem for us, while we continue to maintain our stand that we will not sort out all our dispute till terror continues. But talk on terror can go, and on this particular issue also, NSA can talk to the Pakistani counterpart. And besides this, the international pressure also and economic pressure should be built upon Pakistan, because Pakistan is a state which is economy is on the verge of collapse, And we have, and second thing, it's traditional supporters who used to bankroll money to Pakistan, like Saudi Arabia and UAE, Kuwait, Qatar. They don't have money at the moment. Oil prices are low. They are engaged in a war themselves. They don't want any major confrontation between India and Pakistan. So therefore, I'm sure, and besides this, both the countries, these two major countries in the Arabian Peninsula, they see India as their destination for investments. So they are also, looking to invest in India because they are diversifying their sources of revenue from oil-based economy to other sources. Also, they are going to raise money from other sources. So India is a very important for them. Situation has changed in the last 10 years. Ever since we have introduced liberal economic regimes. So gradually these Arabs are also coming closer to India, and they, of course, Pakistan is very important to them, but they cannot afford a war with any major confrontation between India and Pakistan. Second thing, the other options are there, economic options. We should continue to, go in IMF and World Bank tell them not to give. Pakistan is already on the grey list of the Financial Action Task Force. So that is another area, where we should work. And side by side, as the ambassador has mentioned, our NSA can get in touch with the Pakistani authorities and talk to them, but while maintaining pressure on Pakistan.
General Gurmeet, you wanted to come in? Go ahead, please.
In fact, I very clearly remember we had an incident in 2012, approximately somewhere that time, and I was the additional DGMO in military operation. We had a helicopter which had crossed over in the Kargil side. It went and landed there because of the weather and other conditions and all. We straight away got in touch with the DGMO on the other side and told them that accidentally the helicopter has gone there. And before the sun went down, pilot was returned. I'm definite about it, although this time the environment is different, but we've got to attempt every channel. I'm definite about it that the DGMO channel which is there, we have a hotline with them. It must be conveyed, must have been conveyed to them. And actually, one thing has got to be remembered, that the wing commander is a professional.
Yes.
Our war is on the terrorist. And that point must be kept in mind. And let me tell you one thing. The Pakistan army, since they are controlling the roost in Pakistan, since they are the one who is dictating terms, they are the one who has anchored the entire game of terror and proxy war. They are the one who control the scene. I'm definite about Pakistan army and their decision makers that they will not ethically do anything to the professional, and especially in this moment, because once again I want to say that he is our pride, he is a professional, our war is on terror. This is not part of that game.
Right.
This must be understood by Pakistan, and I'm definite about it. All the elements of communication will be tapped, whether the covert one, overt one, diplomatic, military, whatever the communication
I completely
channels are
agree
there,
with you
they'll
on
be
that,
tapped.
General Singh,
And
because if anything,
definitely he'll be back.
If anything, this government has shown that they're very clear and they do not shy away from taking, tough stance and carrying out a well-coordinated, campaign diplomatically. And we've done it on several accounts. Where I'm completely running out of time, but very quickly, actually, I wanted Air Marshal Nanotkar, because we're talking about a fighter pilot who's been captured effectively by enemy tonight and must be brought home. Air Marshal Nanotkar, can you just, also explain to our viewers what a brave thing he did, the significance of the operation that he carried out, and how he and the other pilots this morning literally put Pakistan in their place?
We were prepared if Pakistan was to do whatever they have done in the entire western sector, right from Leh Ladakh down till Maharashtra border, and all our systems were on alert, and that is how we caught the incoming strike elements that were wanting to cross the border. And like Air Marshal Barbara has said, that it was not one mission coming in that sector and just trying to middle around with our defense forces. It was a full-fledged package that was sent out in that sector, and there were many other aircraft which were also airborne at the same time in across Rajasthan, Gujarat area. So this was one of the strike that was that had crossed border, and these MiGs were scrambled, and they were scrambled well in time, because our AEW aircraft had given adequate warning of this strike coming in very close to our border, and that is how we managed to intercept them, and that is how those pilots, with kind of machine that they were flying, F-16, okay, with a good kind of avionics on board, where they could have dropped this bomb very accurately on the target that they had selected. And and that is how this attack was foiled as far as Indian Air Force is concerned. And like I said earlier, in the hot pursuit, this boy has chased this F-16, shot it down, and in the bargain, he got shot down and he had to eject over enemy territory. And you know, this whole act of bravery, right from his getting airborne and chasing a aircraft which is you know, a couple of generations ahead, you know, it's a fantastic display of courage and professionalism that this pilot has shown to the entire nation and to the world. And you know, there is no real comparison between a MiG-21 and a latest F-16 that Pakistan has, but this is what he has done today. And I think, with all due respect to people on both sides, whether whatever channel, whatever means we use, without putting our guard down, without having an iota of doubt in anybody's mind, we should get this boy back as early as possible. And I think no effort should be spared, and that is what I think today's government, today's military leaders are up to today, that showing to the nation that we have a resolve not only to guard our borders, but also in an eventuality like this to act with definite resolve.
Well, I think it has been made abundantly clear to Pakistan that if you try any adventurous stunts with us, we are perfectly capable and ready to stop you and to put you in your place. All this time also focusing and sending a message to the entire world that the battle against terror is not going to stop. But first up, the priority has to be bringing back this soldier who fought for our country, who was there to guard our borders early this morning when the enemy tried to enter, and who did his job and successfully did his job and foiled Pakistan's attempt. And so it is our duty now to stand by his family and for the government to, on priority, get him released from Pakistani custody and bring him back home. Thank you so much for joining us on this debate.